Was Now You See Me Too a sequel worth getting, or should we use magic to snap it out of existence? Hello and welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Now You See Me Too. Was it good, bad, or somewhere right in the middle? Let me know all your thoughts. I'll be keeping it spoiler free, but taking it right into thoughts of this film, following about this story that's continuing on from the first film. It takes on some months after that film and pulling the team back together, except we're missing Isla Fisher from the mix, and instead adding this character named Lulu that pulls on an interesting blend to the cast, that while you're missing the mystery element from who this main character that is revealed at the end of the first movie, you're still building upon that worlds that are expanding within this franchise, which makes it very interesting and compelling at the bare minimum because of the basics that you're going into other countries, using portals to uncover what is all going on. Now that this magic trick act is all coming to unfold at the end of the first, they're trying to figure out a way to get back into the magic show, trying to devise their plan in order to become a illusionist team again, and how that all works out becomes interesting to say the least. And there's a lot of mix-ups along the way, and you're pulling in some cast members from the past: Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, and of course we're getting three of the four main ones, excluding Isla Fisher. We got Dave Franco and Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, and times Woody Harrelson by two, because we're getting a twin of him just as well. That works in the Scandinavian bad guys that are becoming an interesting pair, paired by Daniel Radcliffe, that their acting is pretty well adequate for the nature of what this film is trying to bring out of it. There's a lot of different stage performances, some cool set pieces. Once again, there's a lot of different flair to how this magic works, and of course there's a nature that it may be extra flashy, it may have all the action to try and distract you from how convoluted or contrived this plot may come out to be, but that's just a hit or miss for some people. There's a different sense to the language and how you're building upon the comedy and the humor of this, including the factor that you're including a second Woody Harrelson, adding in some banter within that, and the team that you're including with the illusionist from the first movie, how they have to combine together, welcome in a new team member, certainly brings about some interesting elements along the way, including the mystery guy that's revealed at the end of the first, pulls about some different strings that expands upon the world building while still containing all the elements that you should be knowing about the franchise as it is so far. Which takes me into the positive. I'm just still a fan of the production value, everything we're getting about the main cast, specifically of what we saw in the first movie, is just doing really well. What we get out of Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, and Dave Franco alike, and then we're adding in Morgan Freeman. There's some just interesting nods to how we're expanding the world, and that just does wonders to the film editing, making it kind of snappy, following about along the way, that there's some interesting nods to what makes this film work as a whole, and John M. Chu as the director certainly brings about some great movements to the screenplay, how the camera moves, how we're tracking everything as a whole, that quite makes it compelling to follow through, even if there's some things that take it back that I'm just about to reference. Which takes me into the negatives. There's just so much about this film that brings it down a notch from the first film that I highly enjoyed, and I feel the convoluted, the contrived sequences felt a lot more apparent within this one. I don't know if it's because I already knew of all the magic, I had time to think about the first one before going into this, realizing the veil lifted from this, but just a matter of fact that certain things, the mystery being absent from this film, about the main guy that's all in control, who the detectives were about, and the new detective case within this one is a less interesting subplot to follow about. It's still a little bit prominent because of the characters involved, they aren't as consequential or substantial to where the plot leads as a whole. And there's certain things what we're getting now that Isla Fisher is gone from the mixture. The replacement of Lulu is good enough, but doesn't necessarily find its footing within the nature of what we're doing. And the double of Woody Harrelson having their banter, the comedy was kind of a miss at certain parts. And on top of the action that otherwise is cool looking, there's just a matter of fact where there was one particular scene about this card that they had to maneuver between themselves, and it went on for like 7 to 10 minutes, it felt like, and it was such a waste of time that I felt like it's cool by the filmmaking standard, but it felt so useless and so unnecessary for the way they were falling about with the plot. It felt like it dragged on way too long, and there might have been a couple other scenes that I could reference from this film that otherwise were just so distracting and so contrived to how you had to pull things forward that these guys of the Illusionists should have otherwise had a more adequate plan that made more sense, like in the first film. That this one, yes, there was interference with these other people in the way, but it just made for a little bit too much of a mess of a film that while there were parts that I still enjoyed, I loved the world building, there's just otherwise a substantial amount of just inclarity that we're trying to strive to crawl ourselves through, and it was just a struggle by the end. So that's just my personal thoughts on Now You See Me Too, which I have to rate a simply 5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Now You See Me Too. Was it good, bad, or somewhere right in the middle? If you like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already to join in film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.